Welcome to Chisel Compass, where deep-rooted wisdom meets the crossroads of faith, entrepreneurship, and mindset. I'm the real Jason Duncan, and he's Dr. Justin Moseley, the Mindset Doctor. And we're here to help you refine your vision and navigate life's toughest challenges with purpose-driven strategies and real-world insights. Each episode, we're going to dive into faith-driven leadership, business growth, personal development, and the mindset shifts that drive lasting success. Now, whether you're building your business, enhancing your leadership skills, or pursuing personal growth, this podcast equips you with the tools and perspectives you need to lead with conviction and live with impact. This isn't just about where you're going, it's how you get there. So let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Chisel and Compass. So, Mindset Dr. Justin Moseley, do you believe that the practice of manifestation is something that Christians should be practicing? What do you think about that?
I think it starts of, well, what do you view manifestation as? So manifestation can get very woo-woo. If you're sitting around thinking, I am the source and I'm going to create my reality, and that you are the source of everything, and you're trying to connect with your own higher power versus the higher power, no, that's the wrong type of mindset. But I believe, especially if we were created in the likeness and image of God, and He is a creator, then by nature, we are creators. So I do believe there is a way to manifest using Christian principles, biblical principles, and use manifestation in your own life.
Yes, I'm gonna make a note because I want to circle back on that idea of creator, but I want to finish. Like you asked a good question back to me. Well, what does it mean to manifest? And I think you're right, and a lot of listeners probably are the same way. Is that we have the wrong idea of what manifestation is. Mm-hmm. And this goes back to the movie The Secret that came out in 2007 about, this law the law of attraction and how you manifest things. And I think people misunderstood it. And I actually interviewed one of the people that were in the movie, Dr. John DeMartini, and he as much as confirmed this, is that the movie didn't go deep enough. It was really surface level. Yep. But I think people walked away from that thinking, oh yeah, I just got to sit in my closet and think about a Lamborghini and I get it. Right. Or if I think about good health, I have it. Or if I think about, getting over this fear. And manifestation, as you said, and I agree, it's the calling into reality that which already exists. You just can't perceive it yet. You don't recognize it yet. So I look at it, and I wonder what you think about this. I look at it like manifestation is what I just said. But when Christians, so-called Christians here, they think we're talking about conjuring, which is something a witch does. We conjure up the spirit of the dead. And conjuring is bringing something that doesn't exist into a new reality that wasn't there before. And I don't think that's what manifestation is.
Yeah, because there's opportunity all around us. So I think it goes back to the reticular activating system, which I know is something you and I have talked about a lot, which is the part of your brain that is the filter. It filters out what you shouldn't focus on. And we were talking recently about the algorithm on YouTube. The algorithm on YouTube filters out a lot of stuff that you shouldn't be seeing and tries to give you the stuff that you like over and over and over. So just like that algorithm, you've got one in your own brain called your reticular activating system. And you can actually prime your own reticular activating system to look for opportunity. But it can work against you too. If you're always looking at, woe is me, life is happening to me, not for me, I'm the victim, your brain is going to continue to show you how you're a victim. If you say, oh, I can't lose weight, anything that I try, it never works, your brain is a supercomputer. It's going to keep showing you examples of why it never works, why you always try and you always fail. But you can prime it to show you, where is the opportunity? What is the action that I need to take to lead to this result that I want? So we can prime our own reticular activating system to show us the opportunity, and which will lead, because the opportunity leads to the action we take, leads to actually the manifestation of the result.
Well, if you're just tuning in for the first time, I want to welcome you to Chisel and Compass. It's a podcast where deep-rooted wisdom meets the crossroads of faith, entrepreneurship, and business, hosted by me. I'm the real Jason Duncan, and my co-host, Dr. Justin Moseley, the Mindset Doctor. And what we want to talk about is how faith, business, and mindset interact. And today we're talking about this idea of manifestation. We're going to talk about meditation. We're going to talk about, he already brought us the scientific stuff, the reticular activating system. And we're going to kind of pull this into what does the movie The Secret leave out? What is missing there from our perspective as followers of Christ? What do we see that's missing there? Is this a movie that we need to completely shun? Like there's a lot of YouTubers that say, Christians should never watch this movie, never practice anything taught by Napoleon Hill, like stay away. Or is it just something that's missing, and we want to fill in those gaps today? So welcome to the show. I'm glad that you've joined us today. So Justin, you were talking about this idea of we're created in the image of God, who is a creator, um, and therefore you say, well, by definition, then that makes us creators as well. Is there a distinction between His ability to create and ours?
Yeah, I like, because I have this conversation with Christians a lot. They think that they kind of like, I want to humble myself and, oh, God is the only thing creating in my life. And I get that. But by definition, if we were created in his likeness and image, and he is a creator, the ultimate creator, then by definition, we are creators. And I like to look at it as he's big C and we're little c. So yes, he is the one that's doing it all, organizing it. But as we, and here's the easiest thing, is that we're always creating. Every single thought, every single action we take is creating a result in our life. So whether you want to acknowledge you are creating stuff, you are. You look at your life right now, your surroundings, everything, good or bad, is because of actions you took along the way. So yes, and that goes in the debate of, yeah, is God orchestrating every single step, or do we have free will? So that's a whole different conversation. But no matter what, you took a step, you took an action, and it led to a result. So you created that result. But I believe, yes, God is guiding our results. But then it goes back to, are you actually looking for guidance from God? Are you seeking that divine counsel to guide your steps? Because that's what's actually going to lead you on the path that you need to be taking, anyways.
Yeah. So when God, as creator, said, "Let there be light," He could create light out of absolute nothingness. I think
Mm,
that's the
yeah.
in Hebrew or Greek. I don't. I think Hebrew is ex nihilo. Is from out of nothing comes something. I'm getting that wrong. It's been a long time since I took Greek. I took Greek, I think, in 1993 in college.
Wow.
But the idea is that He is the creator who can create something out of nothing. And
Mm,
and by the way, a side tangent here is that those who do not believe in creation, they don't believe in that there's a creator behind it all, still believe that out of nothing came something.
that's
So
right.
we
Yeah.
both agree on that. Our position is we know who did it,
Right. Right.
and they don't. But I think though, if we talk about this big C little c creator idea, is that He can create something out of nothing.
Mm,
We can only create something out of something. And that's the
true.
difference.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in order for us to create something, there's something that has to exist. So, what the only thing that I believe and I think has been met out in reality and studies, scientific studies over the centuries, is that the only thing we have control over is the way we think and react to certain things. In other words, our
Mm,
emotions. That is
yeah.
the only thing we have control over. We don't have control over our physical bodies necessarily. We don't have control over what happens to us in the society or in the world. And certainly, we live in America, in a great country, and we have lots of things that are afforded to us that people in some tribes in Africa or in India, they don't have access to. But we all, no matter who we are, have control over our emotions and our minds, and we create our reality out of that. Now, that doesn't mean that if somebody living in a hut in India can manifest a mansion. Okay, they can only create from what is available.
Right.
Is it available? So sometimes you have to move to what something to move to a place. So getting in the right rooms, learning the right things, listening to the right podcasts, getting to a mastermind. Sometimes your reality just you got to have more stuff from which to create the thing that you want. What do you think about that?
Yeah. And I think a lot of time you're creating from your own perspective. So when you look politically, one side has a view at the others and said, I don't see how they could think that way at all. And the other one has the same thing. I don't see how they could think the way they think. But they all have it through their own lens, their own perspective. If I was wearing glasses right now that had orange lenses on it, I would describe the stuff in my room and say, hey, Jason, this light over here is orange. This book right here is orange. And you're not wearing lenses. You're like, how can you see it that way? Well, that's because we all have these lenses we're seeing of how we filter out the world. So that's where to take these lenses off and get a new, open the eyes of your heart, open your eyes so you can see, get around the people, mastermind groups, coaching, podcasts, YouTube videos, to open your mind to different possibilities, to different perspectives, and be willing to learn and be like, hey, I don't have this all figured out. Everything we figured out up to this point is just part of our past, the things that we've been through, the lessons that we've learned. We don't have to continue to repeat the past. And people get that confused all the time. They're like, well, this is just the way it's always going to be. Well, the past does not equal the future, but it will if you let it. And most people just let it. They just repeat their things over and over. But when you open your mind, especially getting around people that think differently, think about the example you use, somebody living in a hut in a foreign country. What if they say, you decided, you know what, I'm going to leave this hut. I'm going to go travel 100 miles to this over here, and I'm going to learn new skills, new abilities, and actually how to trade money. They could work and eventually get the mansion, but you can't just sit there and create it staying in your own little hut. So get around the people that will open your mind to what's possible. And that's where I think we limit ourselves, because God is the God of abundance. There is so much opportunity around us, but are we open to receiving that? Are we open to put ourselves in situations where we meet people that can teach us new things? Are we open to learn new skills? No matter how old we get, we can always learn, especially right nowadays. There's at the touch of your finger on your keyboard, you can learn a new skill at any age. Are you willing to put in the work? Because, man, it's right there available to us if we're willing to put in the work.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier too this reticular activating system, and I think that I want to kind of revisit it because I don't think people think about it enough. I know it was a coach I heard, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, was the first person that ever told me that. I'd never heard of this thing
Oh,
before. But the exercise is, well, if you the example, an exercise to have an example how this works is, if you just bought a brand new Toyota Camry, and let's say it's white, and you start driving your white Toyota Camry everywhere. Well, what are you going to start noticing is all the other Camrys, specifically the white one. Where before, when you were driving, Ford F-150, you probably didn't ever notice Toyota Camrys. It never even came. So you're training your brain to recognize and see things that were there all along,
yep.
but you just didn't see them because your reticular activating system wasn't activated to pay attention to it. So it's kind of this filter that your brain sets up to say, that's not important, don't pay attention to it. Oh, this is important, pay attention to it.
Yep.
So I know that we've all had experiences where our reticular activating system is kicked in and we started noticing things that we never noticed before. But if we take a step back, we realize, oh, they were always there. I just didn't notice it. So for me, the reticular activating system is a way to kind of help those who follow Christ and who are trying to figure out, was manifestation of practice, is law of attraction something we should kind of dip our toes into. That is what this means.
Yep.
There are 80 instances of the word manifest in the Bible in 9 different translations, and none of them talk about conjuring up something that didn't exist. They all talk about, this thing already was present, you just didn't see it, and now it's manifesting itself. Now it's present. So if you train your reticular activating system onto wealth, good health, good relationships, positive mental attitude, if you train your brain on that, guess what? You're going to get what you're focusing on, because your reticular activating system is going to let you see it. I knew somebody long time ago. It was a terrible story. Like, she lost her son. He was 16, died in a car accident. I can't imagine the horror, right? As a father of 2 kids, she lost her son. Then her husband, some years later, passed away, taking a nap on the couch. Like, that was horrible. And there were just another things that happened to her. But her whole life, although she was a pleasant person and she was a nice lady, like, everything was woe is me. Like, not that she walked around as a victim. I don't want to paint her in a wrong light, but
Yeah.
it seemed like bad stuff always happened. And I always wondered, is it a curse? And then the reality, it's not a curse. It's just her reticular activating system is so stuck on the tragedy of loss that's what she sees in every walk of life. And I always, my heart breaks for her, even to this day, even though I haven't seen her in years.
Yeah. And you see that a lot when it comes to health. You look at cancer, and cancer sucks. But a lot of people, the studies show, if they get the diagnosis, if they believe this is a death sentence, they go downhill quick. And I've seen that happen to a lot of people. They had that mindset that gets game over for me. And that's what happened. And it happened fairly quickly for a lot of people, versus the people, you know what? Yes, I accept this is my reality of where I am now, but what if I make healthy choices? What if I do this? What if I do that? I can beat this thing. Those people are more likely to beat it than the ones thinking, you know what, it's over for me. Game over. Check. But I do want to go back because you reminded me of a couple examples of the reticular activating system. Because so one is, because I do want people to get this because it is so powerful, because it can work for us, but it can also work against us if we're programmed to not see the opportunities around us. So it's been years ago now. My wife and I, we moved our clinic and we moved our house. So I drive to my clinic multiple times a day back then. So my wife and I do not eat fast food. So we had been living in this place for about a year, driving the same road over and over. And then I pulled over into a parking lot and I looked up and I was like, when did they build a Taco Bell right here? That Taco Bell had been there for like 6 years. It wasn't a new Taco Bell, but because I don't eat fast food, I'm not programmed to look at where are the fast food restaurants around here. I'd passed it
Yeah.
every single day, multiple days for over a year. And I never even knew it was there. That's what happens to opportunities around us all the time. We go back and forth doing our day-to-day life and not realizing, you know what? There's an opportunity. There's an opportunity. But if we tune in, if I would have been like, hey, I want fast food, where can I go? I would have been like, oh, there's a Taco Bell right there. That's the opportunity. That's not a good example because that's Taco Bell should never be your opportunity. But that's how powerful we could miss the opportunity that's right there in front of us that we're going around, past, through every single day. But we can tune into it and actually see it and make it manifest, even though it was there all along.
So when we go back and look at the movie The Secret, which again I think I mentioned, it came out in 2007. Rhonda Byrne made this documentary style movie based on reading, I think, Napoleon Hill's writings about this idea that there's, and reading other metaphysicians who wrote in the early 1900s, late 1800s, that there was this secret. And what they revealed in this thing was that the secret is this law of attraction that they didn't really talk with a lot about the law of vibration in the movie
Mhm.
or in the book, but the idea was that we're all vibrating, like everything is in motion. It's all atoms and molecules and are all shaking and vibrating on a certain plane. And that material was created by God. Like everything that has been created is created by God. Now they didn't talk about that in the movie, but
Yeah.
everything is created and it's all vibrating. So when we say, hey, I vibe, this person and I vibe together, what you're meaning, even though you're not saying it, is that you're vibrating on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
So if you've been married for any amount of time, and I know you have, and I have too, sometimes you and your wife can work on the same wave. We call it same wavelength, and think the same things. It's because we're vibrating in the same thing. And so what that is a description of the law of attraction, that we can attract the things that we're vibrating on the same plane. So this is not weird, as you use the term woo woo. I think that's a
Yeah.
scientific term, but it's like, it's not woo woo. This is not, it doesn't have to be weird. It is physical reality, how God created the universe. And that's why you get along with some people and you don't get along with others. It's not that either one of you are bad people. It's just you're vibrating on different planes. I mean, if you're a negative mental attitude person, you're probably not going to get along with and be friends with a positive mental attitude person, and reverse. This is how the movie The Secret, I think, leaves stuff out. What's missing is they don't talk about why and
Mhm.
how. They just leave it to this mysterious, this universal intelligence. The universe will do these things for you. Well, the universe don't give a crap about you. The universe isn't a thing, or
Right.
isn't a person. It's just a thing, and they don't reveal that it's the creator God, Yahweh, who is the one who spoke all this into existence. And we can, in essence, and hear me well, speak into existence the things, the realities that we want in life. And again, our ability to create has to come only from something from something, not something from nothing, like God does. So I believe, to answer our question that we asked at the beginning, should Christians practice manifestation? I think we do. It's just whether or not we decide we want to call it that or not. It's how it is, right?
Yeah. And it goes back to The Secret does make you think that I could just sit in my bedroom and wish I had a Porsche and then go out in the driveway and it's going to be there. That's not how it works. And that's where I do think the creator side, and again, it can't be motivated by money and lust over things, but we do have the ability to go out and create value in the world and be paid for that, and in turn be able to buy the nice things that we want in life. So we have that opportunity. Now, when it comes back to the secret itself, well, let's go to vibration, because I do like that conversation about vibration. And one of the best books that I've seen on it is Power versus Force. David Hawkins wrote that years ago, and he actually breaks down like the vibrational scale. I think he calls it his conscious map of consciousness, and different wavelengths were actually measured. And starting down to the bottom, the lowest frequencies were shame, guilt, apathy, grief, and then going up to fear, desire, anger, pride. And then from there, it starts to shift over into the positive. But the lowest level of positive is courage, and you have like neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. And his scale went from 0 all the way to 1,000. 1,000 being enlightenment. And what's cool, in Power versus Force, he talked about the Bible. The Holy Bible itself had a vibration of 1,000. So it's, things do vibrate, and that's where you can feel, you can pick up on somebody's energy. If they're depressed, if they feel shameful, if they're prideful, you pick up on those vibrations that people give off. You can also pick up on somebody who just has so much joy in life. And joy can be with, they don't have to have everything going right in their life. Some people, there could be somebody living in the projects in complete poverty but have so much joy, and you can feel the joy, the love coming from those people. So that's where I think if we spend most of our time trying to focus on things of the Bible, faith, hope, love, the things that we're told to focus on, it naturally raises our vibration and allows us to attract better things into our life. And that's not some woo-woo weird thing, but think about it. If I go around my day-to-day life living in shame and guilt and fear, what am I going to attract into my life versus living a life of joy, love, and peace? And I think that's where knowing whose we are and who we are in him gives us that joy, gives us that love, gives us that peace. And if we can walk in that every single day, we're going to see the world through a different lens and be able to attract better things into our life.
Yeah, I think that, the problem for many of us who follow Christ is that we see most of the people who are embracing things like the movie The Secret and the law of vibration, the law of attraction, teachings like this, is many of the people who embrace that are what we would typically refer to as New Age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it's a classic case of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Am I a New Age person? Absolutely not. In terms of what we're talking about here, it's like, no, I don't accept New Age. There is one God. He is evident in the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Jesus was made manifest in this world, just like you and me, so that we could see what God was really like. And I think that Jesus is the exact representation of who God is. I believe that it is only through faith in Him that you come to know and have a saving relationship with God and are restored to that original relationship that God made for us to begin with. Those are my core beliefs. And I think that most believers in Christ throughout history would agree with that small synopsis that I would state there. Now, that being said, if someone who is New Age and denies everything I just said about Jesus, accepts the law of attraction, law of vibration, practices manifestation and meditation, which we can talk about too, because I know we wanted to talk about that as well. If they do that, I might go, well, in order to protect myself from being sucked into their wrong way of life, I'm just going to deny all that stuff. Well, I think that's what's happened for hundreds
Right.
of years.
Yep.
And that's where, unfortunately, pastors of many churches have done that. I think churches, denominations have espoused it. You sent me a YouTube video of a guy who's a pastor of a church just railing on, with a smile on his face, but railing on The Secret and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's not a healthy way to approach life. I mean, if a Christian, we use this example, the Catholic Church, which would be considered a Christian organization, if that for years they denied the fact that the sun was the center of our solar system. They thought that the Earth was at the center and everything went around it.
Yep.
And when people started saying, was it who was it was Galileo, and then who else came? So there was somebody else that said No, the sun goes, or the earth goes around
Right.
the sun. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
I'm losing my history points here anyway. But anyhow, when they came out and started saying, no, well, actually, the earth goes around the sun, they were, oh, this is heresy. Oh, it's heresy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, today I know people who follow Jesus and say that manifestation is heresy, that the secret is heresy, and that the law of attraction is not real. Well, okay. Well, I don't think that just because other things are done by New Agers makes it wrong. Why do you think we do that?
Yeah, I think it goes to that point of people can say, I did it versus God helped me create this life that I live. So we look at those people that say, I did it. And we're like, well, I don't want to be like them. So I just won't do it at all. And I look at business. People can be very successful because they lied, they cheated people, they stole from people, and they become very successful. Well, you could look at them and be like, I don't want to be like them. So I'm just not going to be successful in life. Well, no, you can be successful being honest, being trustworthy, working in integrity. You can build a business like that without having to be like someone else. But I think that's what they're doing. Like you said, they're looking at the people who are new age and out there and claiming to manifest everything themselves. So they're like, well, I don't want to be like that. So I just will say, no, that's not for me, versus doing it the right way and having your focus on him.
Do you have an example, Justin, from your life where you um, embraced and leveraged the law of attraction for your benefit? I mean, is there something that comes to mind that you think, yeah, I did this? I mean, you used an example about the Taco Bell, which is the antithesis of the law of attraction, because you were
Yeah.
the law of the law. What's the version for what's the word for repel, like attraction? Is it
Right.
repellation?
Right. Right. Yep.
Repellent,
Yeah.
the law of repellent. But do
Yeah.
you have an example of how you might have attracted something to you, or made it manifest that otherwise probably wouldn't have?
Yep. So let me go to the other example I thought of with the law of attraction, or not the law of attraction, but the actual reticular activating system. So we prime it. So I've had Jeep Wranglers for years, and then I took a break. I had other cars, and I just started thinking, you know what? I'd like to have another Jeep. And the next day, driving to work, I passed 11 Jeeps. There was always Jeeps around me every single day, but if I'd not have been looking for them, I wouldn't have seen them. That happens all the time. And I use the Jeep reference because if anybody has a Jeep, they know the thing called the Jeep wave. So we're constantly driving. Yeah, you got your hand on the wheel, a Jeep comes by and you give them the what's up. So it's a Jeep wave. It's a thing that we do. And what it does, that repetition of it, it programs your reticular activating system to become like a sixth sense. Like now I can be driving looking straight, and it's like I feel there's a Jeep coming over here at the stoplight because I know I'm programmed. Every Jeep that I see, I'm going to give them a wave. So that happens. Anybody that has a Jeep Wrangler knows that feeling of you just know where all the Jeeps are. You're so programmed to see the opportunity. And that's where I like to bring it over into life. You can program yourself to see those opportunities. So I say the biggest one specifically for me was my TED Talk. So the first one I did, the TED Talk was a bucket list for me. Like one day I want to do that. I thought about that for years. But as soon as I took it off the 1 day list, you know what? I'm actually going to do a TED Talk. And I focused on it. And I said, and I did, I meditated around it, what it would feel like to be on that stage and the impact that I can make. Because I started focus on it, I got an aligned idea that said, hey, reach out to your friend, ask him what's this process you go through to get a TED Talk. And he said, you shoot your application video, you start applying. You got to have an idea worth spreading, first off. Shoot your application video, you start applying. I think that was on a Thursday or Friday. I had that conversation. I shot my video on Friday, and then all of a sudden I go out to dinner with you at the Standard here in Nashville. You had no idea that I even wanted to do a TED Talk. And we were like an hour into conversation, I think having a cigar by that point, and you told me, you know what? I met a cool guy that came into town earlier this week, and he's the organizer for TEDx. And I was like, man, I just shot my TEDx application video. I'm about to start applying. And then you're like, well, I'll connect you. If he likes your idea, you guys can take it from there. So the guy that told me to go through the process, he said, if you get accepted, it's going to take you a year to 18 months. You're going to apply to a bunch of places. You'll get denied. Just stay positive. Well, that timeline shifted from 12 to 18 months to like a week because I talked to that guy the next week and he accepted me on the spot. Now, if I could have said, I could be like other people and say, I did that. I made that happen. But no, I look at it as like, no, I just focused on it. I focused on the opportunity. Had I not had been focused on the opportunity, we would have went to dinner that night and you would have told me about a guy who's organizer for TEDx. And I would have said, you know what? That's cool. That's awesome. And then we would just went on with life. But because I had got focused, I was open to receive the opportunity. And then when you said that, boom, I peeked up and said, you know what? This is aligned with where I'm going. And so that's the one of the biggest and most life-changing ones for me was no, what I focused on allowed me to see opportunities. I remember because you know me, I mean, I'm introverted. Like I like hanging out at home. I could be reading a book, just chilling by myself. And a lot of extroverts out there, you guys have FOMO, fear of me missing out. Sometimes us introverts, we get phobia, fear of being invited. And I remember, Jason, when you reached out and said, hey, you want to go? Like part of me was like, man, it's been a long day. I'm tired. But I followed the nudge and said, you know what? You should meet up with him tonight. And if I wouldn't have listened to that, we would have never had that conversation and I never would have had that opportunity. So that's another thing people have to do is when you prime your reticular activating system, you'll get these nudges that say, hey, reach out to this person or go to dinner, take this opportunity. And because I took the step, I met up with you that led to the conversation that led to TEDx. So people can look at that on the outside looking in and say, you know, that was just woo woo. You're saying you created this. And no, I didn't create this at all. But I did focus my
That's
energy and allowed to see the opportunity.
well, that is a good story. Not just because I'm a part of it, but I think that's a really cool story. Um, there's this video, and maybe my editor when we're editing this, he can actually put this on the screen when I'm talking about this during the video. But maybe not. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you might get the blessing of seeing the video. But there's this video on YouTube, Instagram Reels, wherever, and it's this German Shepherd in the house standing in front of a tiny little hockey net. I don't know if you've seen this. And the owner is on, the camera angle is from the owner's perspective looking at the dog. And there are all these toys in front. And the owner has a plastic hockey stick. And he is going to be hitting all these pieces into the net. And the idea is the dog is supposed to stop these from going to the net. But the dog has been trained to only stop one type of toy, and they're all different types of toys. So the dog is like staring a hole through this one toy, and the video goes pretty fast. And so what happens is that the owner takes the hockey stick, and he's like slapping these things in no particular order, and the dog isn't flinching. He doesn't move at all. But as soon as he flicks that one toy that the dog was told not to let go in the goal, boom, he snaps it with his mouth and doesn't let it go in.
Mm.
And the whole video, the caption was about how it takes intense focus to attract that which you actually want. If you really pay attention, you always get, no matter how many distractions are coming. And I think this is part of the law of attraction, the law of or not the law of manifestation, because manifestation is part of it, but the law of attraction is just paying attention. Like
Yeah.
you pay attention to a Jeep, you see Jeeps. You pay attention to a camera, you see camera. You pay attention to getting on a TEDx stage. You're going to pay attention when somebody says, "Ooh, I just met the organizer for TEDx Wilmington." Like you're going to pay attention.
Yeah.
Had the dog, like you could cut to another video of a golden retriever out playing in the middle of the field, like a golden retriever typically would,
Yeah.
and you could be kicking all kinds of stuff its direction. It doesn't care. It might actually stop one of them from going into the net, but only by accident, not because he
Right.
was paying attention. I think most of us drift through life, and this is what Napoleon Hill talks about, not only in Think and Grow Rich, but specifically in Outwitting the Devil, which is a phenomenal book about we drift through life with no definite purpose, not focused on anything. Therefore, we're only attracting anything that happens to be in our way. We're not attracting the things that we want. So here's a question for us to discuss. To maybe this might be the last one we talk about, and before we go into the next show, but if we have somebody argue with us and say, Justin and Jason, like, I don't practice manifestation. I don't think law of attraction works. Things just happen. Hey, I had this one thing happen one time. Oh, I got on a TED stage. Yeah, it was a very interesting coincidence how that happened. Where you and I would say, well, it was something that we focused on and we attracted it.
Mm-hmm.
How do we balance that out? And I'll couch my question with a semi answer of my own.
Okay.
Is that I believe that the law of attraction is not 100% of the time it is works. Like the law of gravity sometimes can be bent depending upon where we are in the overall universe, right? I think the law of attraction sometimes doesn't work to our favor or doesn't work at all. We can focus, and nothing ever happens. And I also think that times we might not focus at all and something happens.
Mm.
So that doesn't also mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It means we just have to use the tool that's available. So what do you say to the person that says, well, I don't believe in it, stuff still happens anyway?
Yeah, so a couple things come up. One is that is a powerful video. So hopefully we can get that for them to see. If not, go try to find that video because the toys are going rapid fire past this German Shepherd, and he is not flinching, like you said. What I think the other representation of what this is for people, most of people, every single thing that's coming at them, they're just grabbing it. Oh, shiny object here, shiny object there, versus not having that focus on what they really want. And when you do have that
Yeah.
focus, you let those other shiny objects go away and you go after what you truly want. So that's step one. And then I have a little different take on that it doesn't work all the time. But it's, what do you judge that by? Are you judging it by you got what you want each time? In that case, no. I look at more like prayer. Sometimes we pray for what we want to find out later God protected us from actually getting that.
Yeah.
And that's not truly what was in his will for us. So I just keep the open mind of it's always working. It just might not be what I got because I wanted it in the moment. It might have been like, yes, it moved me in the right. And this is what's cool. A lot of times it can move us in the right direction and help us realize that's not what we want anyways. We're going to pivot this way and we're going to go that way and realize, you know what, I'm going to tweak back over here. But it's always, if our eyes are on him, it's always leading us in the right direction.
Jesus said, ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. He wasn't only talking about salvation. That is a salvation. There is a principle in there that leads to salvation, but he was revealing the idea of the law of attraction. And again, I know people are going to hang me and call me a heretic for saying that, but the idea is he just said it. He's like, if you ask for something, you're going to get it. If you seek for something, you're going to find it. If you knock, the door will be open. The converse is also true. If you don't ask, you're probably not going to get it. If you don't seek, probably not going to find it. If you don't knock, the door ain't going to be open for you. So this law of sowing and reaping, that's another law that Jesus talked about. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap.
Yep.
Like you don't sow good things, positive things, looking for TEDx and reap bad things and getting put in jail. Like those things don't go together. You get what you get what you put in life because we are attracting the things that we are, and our reality is directly related to who we are and what we think about. And who we are is what we think about most of the time.
Yeah. And it's funny you just said that because that's where I was going, kind of full circle back to Earl Nightingale, who probably the secret came from his strangest secret back in the day, where that was his main purpose. You are what you think about most of the time. And it's so true. And that's where going to the Bible and realizing who you are versus this story you've created of your in your head of maybe you're a victim or you're not good enough, you're not worthy, all the stuff that you created, that's not what God says about you. So if you start reading that and understanding who you are in him, life could be completely different because you have different thoughts. You think different thoughts, you have different feelings, you take different actions, you're going to get different results.
I'll finish up our show today by quoting something that I read I'll practically every day of my life, and this comes from the book of Philippians in chapter 4. Paul is talking to the church at Philippi, and he's finishing up this short letter on how to be joyful and how to be happy in life, etc. And he says this. He goes, finally, he's finished up. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, whatever, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So his instruction is to meditate, to think about these things. And he, we're told here is that the peace of God, he says, the peace of God will be with you. He says, practice these things and the peace of God will be with you. So when you focus on what is good, guess what? You're going to get what is good. And the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, you don't even understand it, will guard your heart and will guard your mind. in Christ Jesus. So maybe in our next episode, we could talk about meditating, because we just dropped a little bit on think and meditate. So maybe if you tune in again on our next show, we'll talk a little bit about, should Christians meditate? Should we who follow Jesus practice this idea of meditation? So Justin, any final words, thoughts, or salutations before we sign off?
No, I think we take this conversation into the next episode, because we can also go in like, what are the steps to manifestation? Because I think that's a critical piece where people look at the steps that people use, and one of them being meditation. And that's where people get caught up on, these steps are not of God, versus no, can they be? So I think there's a lot more we can discuss with this.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That's another episode of Chisel and Compass, where me, the real Jason Duncan, and Dr. Justin Moseley, the Mindset Doctor, come together, and we just ruminate on our concepts and perceptions of faith, mindset, and business practices. And hopefully today you've gotten a little bit of nugget of something that'll help you. Make sure you check out Dr. Justin Moseley on Instagram at Dr. Justin Moseley. Check out me at the real Jason Duncan. I did give you a right handle, didn't I? I didn't mess that up, did
Yes.
I? That was the right
That's
one.
it.
Okay. I'll make sure I got the right one. I follow you on Instagram. You know that. I just don't remember everybody's handle. So follow him at Dr. Justin Moseley. Follow me at the real Jason Duncan. And we'll see you next time. And remember, Jesus is King. That's a wrap on Chisel and Compass for today. For show notes, resources, and more, hit up chiselandcompass.com and follow us on social media. You can find me at The Real Jason Duncan, and you can find Justin at Dr. Justin Moseley. Until next time, keep your chisel sharp, your compass true, and never stop building what matters. This is Chisel and Compass.